What's up? What's up? It is your girl, Pastor Courage Molina, coming to you live, right? On this Wednesday TGIW. Well, it's a live recording. That's what I mean. Like I'm recording this live. It's not going to be edited. This is just me and you chatting it up. And I'm the pastor of Dose of Courage Community Church. I'm also the founder of Courage Molina University, which is an online school for personal growth and development for women of purpose. I'm the author of Power Principles, Courageous Living, How I Overcame Depression and Took Back My Life. And that is the book series that we are still on, still talking about my book this week. But instead of just talking about the book, I really wanted to talk to you about reducing the risk of depression and anxiety. We have been through a lot over the past few years, some of us more so than others. And so the topic of mental health is one that is definitely a buzzword. It's a very popular topic, and I think it's about time. It's great. But with that being said, I want to talk a bit about how we can reduce the risk of depression and anxiety, just in general in our lives. And you can share these principles with anyone, whether they are dealing with depression and anxiety or whether you just want to help them to kind of reduce the risk. Now, listen, I am not a licensed therapist or doctor. I'm not even an unlicensed therapist or doctor. I'm not any of those things. And so, if you are currently struggling, or someone you know is currently struggling with mental health issues, either depression, anxiety, or anything else, then you should certainly reach out to a professional to get some assistance. I just want to share from my experience, and that's what I intend to do. So, in the book, I talk about overcoming depression and anxiety. I talk about my journey with depression and all of that. But the first principle that I realized after I came out of that dark space was that my depression and my anxiety was really rooted in my identity, or really my self identity, who I thought I was. Over the years, I had been through good things and bad things, and I collected those things to identify myself, right? I was a teen parent, I was this, I was that, I was a girl from the projects, I was all these things. And once I just like kind of decided on what my identity was, once I accepted all of my experiences as my identity, I'm going to say that again. Once I accepted my experiences as my identity, that immediately put a limit on what my future could possibly hold, what was actually possible for me. And then that brings and enters in the hopelessness. And that hopelessness leads to despair. And despair often leads to depression and anxiety. And so this is the issue, is that we tend to self-identify. And I'm looking down because I'm going to be reading from my book a little bit. Um, we tend to self-identify. And as I say in my book, unfortunately, the process of self-identity begins when we are children, but is influenced 100% by our environment and those in it. We are taught who we are and the limitations or expectations based on that identity before we even have the opportunity to discover ourselves. Our parents, teachers, and the world around us tell us exactly how we are to behave. They tell us that girls wear pink and play with dolls, and boys wear blue and play with trucks. If for some odd reason we go against those truths, we are quickly corrected, right? And then as we get older, we start to participate in the self identification process. We start to form our identity based on our experiences, how we see the world, and the decisions that we've made. If we've made good decisions based on whatever our value system is, then we can see ourselves as good. If we've made bad decisions based on whatever our value is, then we start to see ourselves as bad, right? We don't deserve good things if we realize that we are bad people. And if we are good people, then we expect for good things to happen. And when they don't, we tend to have an issue. Here is the problem: you don't know if the identity that you were given, what they told you about people who looked like you, sounded like you, were from the side of the tracks that you're from, all of those things actually is your true identity. It also goes to reason that the experiences that you have don't choose your identity. Not, I mean, that's also true for anything else, right? A car is a car. Just because a car gets into a car accident doesn't mean that it's not a car, that it was never a car, right? It is. So, how do I know what the car is used for? How can I identify a car? Well, it's based on the person who invented it. They tell me what it's used for, what it is, what the limitations of it are, what I can expect from it, what it can do, what it can't do, the person who invented it. And so, if we want to understand who we are as individuals, right? If we want to understand our true identity, that true identity for the believer is found in Christ. How can I begin to understand who I am if I don't look to the one who created me? Only the one who created you can tell you who you are, how you are supposed to behave. Maybe I don't like pink, and I know I'm wearing pink today, but I'm saying maybe I don't like pink. That doesn't make me less of a girl. Maybe I do like trucks. That doesn't make me a boy because I like trucks, right? Like, it just means that I have this interest. But if I like trucks, that makes me a bad girl or not a good girl or a tomboy or whatever. Now, all these new labels, and now I have to fit into those labels. I have to behave according to those labels. And now I know what I can expect from that, right? Because there are limitations that are associated with each label, right? Black, white, young, old, skinny, fat, smart, dumb. These are all labels. And when you accept those labels as your identity, there are a slew of rules and limitations and expectations that come with them. Well, if you are a Black woman, then you are strong and you cannot cry. And we don't do this and we don't do that. Like, wait a minute. I am a Black woman, but I do cry. You know what I mean? So does that mean I'm not a good woman? Does that mean that I'm weak? Does that mean that I'm whatever, right? Like, all of these things are passed on to us, not just from our family, but also from the society that we live in. And then we also have to come into agreement with it. And a lot of times we come into agreement with the messages that we get all the time, even if they don't really resonate with what our spirit is saying to us on the inside. We will just go with what everybody else is saying. Like, well, that's what they say, so I must be, that's what they say, so it must be too difficult. But the reason I say that, understanding your identity is a key ingredient in reducing depression and anxiety is because depression and anxiety for me started with not really knowing who I was, mistaking my identity. I thought I'm just a poor Black girl from the hood who grew up in the projects, who got pregnant young, and who trapped a man into marrying her. Right? That's the identity, right? That I accepted for myself because I didn't actually know who I was. My experiences don't change anything. My experiences don't change my identity. We cannot allow our experiences to change the way we see ourselves. But when things are going bad, we see ourselves as bad. And when things are going great, we see ourselves as great. And those things are both dangerous, right? It's a dangerous situation to not be able to see yourself for who you are. And there came a time in my life, darkest time of my life, where I could look now and see that the reason I got to that dark place is because I had allowed the experiences, the struggle, the challenge, the decisions that I made, and what other people were saying to define who I was. And that definition was sad and depressing. that person, a person who traps a man into marrying her, you have no hopes of a happy marriage. There's a limitation, right? A person who gets pregnant young, you don't have any, real expectation to have a great life. I want you to start to think right now about all of the labels that you have just accepted about who you are, and then all of the limitations that come with that, right? You're just a what, fill in the blank. You don't have to drop it in the chat today, right? But you're just what, you can just drop that. Like, think about that. So that means I'm limited in my this. I'm limited because of the society that I live in, because of the way people look at women, because of the way people look at women of color, because of the way people look at people who are from my socioeconomic background. That means that I won't be able to XYZ. But the truth is, you are who God says you are. And if you want any help in reducing the risk of depression and anxiety, it is in remembering who you actually are. Because when you understand who you are, that changes your posture. When you understand that you're a child of the Most High God, that changes your outlook. Then it doesn't matter what situation I'm in right now. It doesn't matter what skin I'm in. It doesn't matter if I'm a woman. It doesn't matter what I've been through. It doesn't matter what has been done to me. It doesn't matter what I've done to somebody else. I'm a child of the Most High God. And so that gives me a place of hope to start from. And listen, the lifeblood of depression and anxiety is, in my humble opinion, hopelessness. That is the lifeblood of it. Hopelessness. You have no hope that there could be a better day. You have no hope that you could experience something else. You have no, why? Because you're limited by your identity. But when you take the limits off of your identity because you understand who you are and whose you are, that changes everything. When you realize, when you start to think, right? Let's just start from that. You are a child of God. This is for the believer. If you are a child of God, think about that. I mean, we're talking scripture. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Galatians 4:7, KJV, right? Okay, I'm a child of God. What does that mean? It means that I have God as a father. It means that I'm a child, which means I don't know everything. It means that I am an heir. It means that my legacy and my DNA is amazing. It means that I have a father who loves me. I have a father. I don't care about the fact that my dad is a deadbeat dad. My dad was an absent father. My biological dad is, to date, an absentee father for me. Now, he might show up for his other kids, but he ain't show up for me. Okay? Right? And my stepdad, if you read the book, you know my stepdad had a lot of struggles. So I didn't have a great father figure, but I'm a child of God, which means I have an amazing dad. My dad is absolutely amazing, and he knows everybody, and he has all this power, and he loves me so much. That gives me hope. That right there, identifying as a child of the Most High God, immediately puts me in a place of hopefulness instead of hopelessness, which is a great way for us to combat depression and anxiety. There is hope that things can be different. There are possibilities. Greatness is before me. I have somebody who's looking out for me. Whatever your natural parents' proclivities were, whatever your natural parents' shortcomings, my own, I'm a parent as well. Whatever my shortcomings are as a parent, based on my experience or my brokenness or my limited resources or my limited insight or whatever, those things do not apply to God, your Father in heaven. Those things do not apply to him. And so when a believer says, I'm a child of the Most High God, but then we at the same time will allow these limitations to play in our head as if it is impossible for God to overcome those things on our behalf, that really speaks to an identity crisis. I think I can't do something because I've forgotten who I am. I think that things are not possible for me because I forget who has gone before me. I think it's possible that somebody could set up a weapon against me and that it might prosper. I think those things in moments of weakness when I forget who I am. But if you could be reminded on a daily basis, if you could get some affirmations about yourself on a daily basis that reminds you of who you are and you really tap into that, that will change everything. It will change your posture. It will change your stance. It will raise your energy level. It will increase your hope. I'm not saying it's going to change your situation in that moment, but knowing that I'm a child of the Most High God means that my situation is not my final destination. Whatever darkness I'm in right now, this is not my final destination. I have not fallen so deep into despair. I have not fallen so far off the wagon that my God in heaven cannot reach to me, get to me. There ain't no way, right? There isn't any place that I could be that God can't reach me. When you realize that you're a child of God, you can start to speak those things over your own life. I'm a child of the Most High God. I'm a marvelous work. I am chosen. I am royal. I am holy. I am God's special possession. Think of special possessions that you have. What do you do with those special possessions? You make sure you don't let everybody use them. You put them up. You use them properly for the reason for which they were created. You don't let just anybody have access to them. You treat them nice. You understand what I'm saying? You are a special possession. When I understand that I'm a special possession to God, instead of this, like, well, nobody loves me, nobody cares about me, right? That is what happens. Our identity is I am somebody who lacks value. I am somebody who lacks purpose. I am somebody who lacks worthiness. I am somebody who is unworthy of love. I'm somebody who is like all of those things. That is how we identify. But the truth is, you're a special possession of God. The truth is, you are chosen, set apart. The truth is, you are holy. The truth is that God loved you so much that he sent his son to die for you. And he would have, even if you were the only person. The word of God tells us that he will leave the 99 to come search for the one. That means if you are that one, he is coming for you. He's going to come and find you. He is going to light up every dark place to come and get you. He going to get down on his hands and knees and look up under. Do you understand what I'm saying? He is going to take the extra steps, all the steps to come and get you. And when you realize that you have somebody who is fighting on your behalf, somebody who wants to spend intimate time with you, somebody who wants to go before you, who wants for you to have more and not less, somebody who's called you the head and not the tail, someone who has placed you above and not beneath, when you realize that that is who you are, and nothing that you have done, nothing that anybody has done to you, or anything that you have experienced, or your present situation, or your past, nothing changes your identity. It helps you to get right and to stay right. Right? So for me, that's the first place to start. I did not begin to overcome depression and the darkness that held me for so long until I really got my word and I learned who I was. It wasn't until I learned, like, who are you? When I learned who I was, that is what changed so much. If you want to know more about the power of identity and how to apply this principle to your life, then I would encourage you to go ahead and get your copy of Power Principles, Courageous Living, How I Overcame Depression and Took Back My Life. That first principle is the power of identity. And I am telling you that nothing else has a leg to stand on until you get the foundation of who you are. Now, listen, I hope that this has blessed you. Be sure to like this video. If you like this video, subscribe to this channel. If you haven't, be sure to get your copy of Power Principles, Courageous Living, How I Overcame Depression and Took Back My Life. Be sure to get your copy of that so you can learn more about the first principle, power principle of identity. You are who God says you are, and how it's not enough for us to know that principle. The book walks through, how you can apply that principle to your life so that you can begin to overcome depression, and so that you can begin to, reduce the risk that you will fall into a depressive and, state of anxiety, reduce the episodes of depression while you're on your journey. Now, listen, I am a girl who loves the Lord, and I also love my therapist. So these, while I didn't necessarily, I didn't have a therapist during the time that I talk about in the book. I didn't have a therapist. I have been seeing a therapist for more than a year now. And honestly, I wish I had gotten a therapist a long, long time ago, because if I had, then some of these principles might not have taken as long. Even with my therapist, even with my faith, I still use these principles. These principles are how I live out my faith. These principles are like the practical day-to-day things that I use. The word says it's not enough for us to pray and be like, oh, go ye and be warm and well fed and all that. We have to actually like do something. And so these principles help you to put some things into place. I hope this has blessed you. If you have questions, any questions about the book or the book writing process or the self publishing process, then drop that in the chat. And I cannot wait to see you next week as this summer book series continues. All right, love you. Oh, wait, just kidding. You're going to go on over to TGI. I'm sorry. You're going to go on over to A&O as TGIW continues. Okay? All right. I love y'all. Now I love y'all. Okay, now later.